Okay. Hello, vibrant souls. Welcome back to another episode of the Nereyda Ramirez podcast. Welcome to episode 30. How freaking amazing is that? So I'm super excited that we're hitting episode 30. And I definitely want to thank you guys for listening, for subscribing on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube, and seriously, thank you for being here. It's so amazing, and it's so nice to see messages from you guys on how these episodes resonate or how it's connected with you. It's really, really amazing to hear back from you guys on specific episodes again and just how they connect with you. And of course, it's not just me. So if you've been listening to a couple episodes by now, you definitely know that it definitely leans on the spiritual energy. And I definitely pray and meditate before. And I have a little prayer actually that I want to share with you guys because it's a prayer that I say to myself before I get on my episodes, before I do any event. And let me just share this with you guys because it's nice. So I am here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. And it's a prayer from A Course in Miracles. So again, guys, thank you a bunch. And as you can tell, if you're on YouTube, it says episode 30, ... because I don't really know where this episode is going to go tonight. It just felt very spontaneous to record, to just take out my laptop and my microphone and record a podcast episode for this weekend. Because I know one of the things that I also want to do is be consistent with it. And I'm pretty sure most of you guys can relate, sometimes there's nothing that pops up and it makes me not know what to record or what to say or how to move forward with it. And I've been practicing to just show up, to just fucking show up. And this is part of it. So one of the other things that I really want to share with you guys as I'm recording, again, it's totally random and spontaneous, is that I hope you feel my vibe that I'm in late at night on a Friday. It's 1:00 in the morning, and I love, love, love these late night spaces. So there's something about being up late at night that feels very peaceful and very calming. There's something about being up when it feels like the rest of the world is sleeping. And I like the vibe. I love the energy. I love the stillness and the calmness. And I have my candle out. I have my late night music. I have my tea, my calm peace tea, as I most likely would go to bed after this episode. But yeah, I just wanted to yap a little bit and maybe share with you guys what's been up these past 10 days, I think, since I've been back from Costa Rica. So I don't know, where do I start? Let's see. Let's start with how I've been practicing a devotional practice every morning. So ever since I've been back, I've been doing this 40-day devotional practice where I sit in my meditation space every morning for at least 30 minutes and meditate and pray and journal. And one of the inspirations of this practice is actually me just craving to be more in these spaces of stillness, in these spaces of gentleness, in these spaces of being more connected to my intuition and the universe. And if you guys have been listening to my other podcast episodes, then you know that one of my intentions with juicing, my 30-day juicing, was to connect with myself. And I really, really loved and have loved, I just said that, I really love how juicing brings that stillness in my life, brings that calmness into my life. So again, like I was missing it. And I thought, okay, let me try this devotional 40-day practice, which I've seen before. I follow this woman named Blue, and she's a spiritual speaker and a podcast host, and she's done it a couple of times. And this time I was like, let me do that. Let me try that because I want to keep bringing that stillness and that space in my life, and I want it to be consistent. And the other reason why it was like an inspirational thing was because, or another reason that inspired this is that before I left to my Costa Rica trip, I had been feeling really overwhelmed. So I started school, I was working, and the last week before I left to Costa Rica, I had a lot of homework to do and I was trying to work on some papers because the quarter was ending, and I had a lot of fucking coffee that week. And it just felt like an adrenaline rush times 1,000. And I did not like the feeling, at least not this time. I think I have felt it before. And I think that space actually has been very common for me. And I think all of my life I have, not that I have mistaken it, but I have been calling it my passion, my drive, my high energy, like bunny rabbit space, my fuel, which I'm pretty sure it is. I'm still trying to explore it, right? So this is me totally pondering out loud. But yes, like yes, like it's that. But at the same time, through a somatic session a couple months ago, it made me ponder how much of that is also unhealthy adrenaline rushes. And I think it's just been more in the forefront of me being curious with it. And that week before I left to Costa Rica was very much, hold on, I don't like this space. I just finished a juice cleanse not too long ago, and I miss that gentleness. I miss that slowness. I miss that stillness. How am I like all of a sudden from 1 to 1,000 on this go, 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 go high energy drive? And one of the things that I was realizing for myself is that I wasn't being present. And again, just like moments of reflection of, oh, like I'm in this space often and I think I'm present, but I'm not. I'm on this like to-do list on one to the next, the next, the next. And I'm missing these moments of presence throughout it. So it was just very interesting. But to share a little bit of my thematic session a couple months ago, actually, I was like laid on the table and the synergist had like touched me and she was like, oh, she was like, you're running on adrenaline all the time. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? And she was like, I could feel it. And I'm like, oh, I was like, that's my energy. Like, that's just my drive. And she was like, no, like, this is not healthy. It was something along the lines like that, right? And I was like, oh. And I don't know, like, something just clicked where it just made me ponder, like, is this adrenaline? Like, oh shit. And I know, like, I've read about people being in these spaces and how it's not healthy. Like, it's not healthy in the long run. Like, I know the long lasting effects. And it just was like a little seed in my brain of just pondering spaces of like, okay, how much is it passion? How much is it my drive? How much is it like adrenaline? How much is it like all these questions, right? And before I left to Costa Rica, it just clicked in a different way. And I was like, okay, like, how can I bring more of this other space in my life? You know, so it was just very interesting. So of course, you know, like I saw this like devotional practice and I'm like, oh, like let me do that. Like let me bring that into my life because whenever I have a consistent practice of meditation, like I feel different, right? Like there's slowness and again, like there's stillness and there's calmness and I love it. I totally love it. And I think that's where I'm at, guys. Like again, I'm pondering out loud, sharing with you guys, I guess, where I'm at or what spaces I'm learning to be in or what spaces I'm transitioning into. But it also feels like this new space also feels, ooh, what pops up is safe. It feels like I'm not running away. Yeah, it feels safe. And it feels like there's a part of me that's like coming through, which I feel like connects back to like feminine energy, to that again, like the gentleness, the softness, the opening of my heart, the simply being. And it's like it's spaces that I've touched on before, right? Like it's spaces that I've been in before, so it doesn't feel unknown. It's spaces that I've practiced in for at least the last like 6 years, 7 years. And again, it feels like I dip in and I dip out and I coexist with like both worlds, and there's nothing wrong with it. But oh, look at guys, it's a 111. The universe is present and angels are present. But and it's 11:22 on this recording. So all these ones and twos. Okay. So yeah, so it feels like it's like I dip in, I dip out, and I think when life gets overwhelming, it gets deeper into that like drive of adrenaline. But more and more, I'm just more curious and I want to be more in that space of simply being and letting myself be. And with that, I've noticed that it also comes with deeply feeling. So if you're in these spaces, let me know how it's working out for you. Let me know of your transition. Let me know of your adrenaline spaces if you've been in those spaces. Um, but yeah, it also feels like, again, like it feels like my heart's been opening up and it feels more sensitive too. So yeah, so I'm so far enjoying it. I'm so far loving it. And I'm being mindful with it. I'm being aware of those. So actually, even one of the things that I actually stopped doing is like I stopped drinking coffee as much. So before I left, maybe like the past year or so, I've been definitely drinking a lot of coffee. And ever since I started school, it feels like I've been having a cup of coffee every day. But again, that last week before I went to Costa Rica, I just felt like, oh, I'm already on this rush and I'm having a cup of coffee, maybe two, actually a large coffee cup. And I was noticing how it was making me go more on overdrive, which again, spaces that I love too because I get shit done. Love those spaces. Again, it's like passion, it's drive, it's like, let's do this, it's like, go, go, go. And yet at the same time, just within the last couple of weeks, I've been so curious as to like, can I still get shit done in this space of simply being, in this space of like gentleness, in this space of like everything that I just shared? So I'm trying it out. And so far, it feels like I can, right? Like I did have a cup of coffee today, but again, it's like a different type of intention. Like, okay, like I'm feeling really tired today. It's going to be a long day. I went to bed last night late. So let's have a cup of coffee, right? But not when I'm already in that space. And again, I'm still going to be mindful with it, but yeah, and I think it could get done. I think I'm like opening up too. That's what it feels like. It feels like I'm also opening up different spaces of just awarenesses and different practices that I've been aware of before, but I haven't really used. And the class that I'm doing in Canada, it's like I'm excited to be in these spaces because the training course in Canada, the Rubenfeld Synergy training course, requires a lot of presence and a lot of intuition and a lot of stillness. So I think that's also been, like a factor in like wanting to be in these spaces. And it makes me curious as I do my own personal practice every day, like how I'm going to show up to those spaces. And I can kind of see already like the my presence with it. Like I had a practice session this week, and again, it felt good. It felt really, really good. But yes, so today I'm on day 7, and it was good, Today was it was a very interesting devotional meditation practice this morning because I meditated to just meditation music. And the meditation music, actually, let me tell you. The title was, here. The title was Silence Isn't Empty, It's Full of Answers. And I probably went into it with like an expectation of, okay, I'm going to be in the silence and I'm going to be in this space and the answers are going to come through. And none of that happened. None of that freaking happened. And at some point, I was like, why the fuck am I meditating if I can't find the silence, if I can't find the answers in this space? It was such a good reminder of the intention of meditation, of the intention of why I was doing these morning practices. And this morning, what popped up really was my to-do list for the day. It popped up my to-do list for this weekend. I heard some really devastating news at the start of the week, which really has left me super reflective and just heartbroken and just in these like thoughts and feelings. And that popped up, right? I'm going through a breakup, so like those thoughts and feelings popped up. And like school popped up, like I had homework I had to get done, so that popped up. I had notes I had to get done, so that popped up. Friendships popped up. And it was just very busy in my mind. And it was such a good reminder to keep connecting back to my breath, to keep connecting back to my body. And again, it was like a really good reminder of like meditation is just to be present with all that is happening, to be present with simply being, to bring awareness to what is again what's happening in the moment. And we have expectations sometimes of what meditation is or what it's supposed to be like or what's supposed to happen. And yes, sometimes, most of the time, maybe not all the time, but silence comes through and presence comes through and the universe comes through. And again, divine energy comes through and our spiritual guides come through and our intuition comes through and we're being channeled and we hear messages. And at least for me, that's been my experience, right? And I'm sure many of you guys can relate and many of you guys can't, but it's like, yes, like all of that is super present. And again, even connection to our body, right? Like, or even going so deep into like other spaces. And yes, like all of that is super present. And yet sometimes like none of that is present. And all that is present is just our monkey mind going 1,000 miles per hour, making a ruckus in our in our mind. And we can't seem to find the silence or the stillness or on any of all of that. And this morning it was a good reminder of, okay, the intention is just to be still though. The intention is to simply be here now with anything that is happening. So it was a really, again, really, really good reminder of that and the intention of this and the intention of like, just sit the fuck down, right? That's my intention. Like, sit the fuck down and just be here. Sit the fuck down and connect to your breath. Sit the fuck down and just be. So it was a good reminder, but the last couple of days, so today's my day 7, but the last couple of days, it has been like that. Like, there's been a couple of times where these affirmations of the concept of deserving comes through. Of I deserve healthy people. I deserve to live my life. I deserve healthy food. I deserve to share stories. I deserve because I simply am. And I'm pretty sure that was inspired by a somatic session just a couple of days ago. But like that came through. And the other day, it was a morning of just feeling sadness over my breakup. And again, like being in it and just it. So this is like vulnerable to share, right? Like that morning I woke up with just like, oh my God, like what's the point of all of this? Like, I don't get it, right? And again, it might be because, I heard these, or no, like that was after, but like I just woke up in those spaces, right? And then that's when I heard the devastating news, and it just added to the day of like, seriously, like what is the point of all of this? And it was just simply being in my meditation space and allowing those spaces or those feelings to simply be. And in that, actually, I'm going to share this with you guys. And of course, like that day ended up, the night ended with feeling gratitude. And I purposely ended up staying late because, again, like I love these spaces. So that night ended with like gratitude, being able to connect with stillness in a different way later at night, with like connecting with friendships and my tribe. So it started off with, like these heavy, a container being full of the breakup feelings of, like what the heck, what's the purpose of life? And then journaling and tearing up about it and going on with my day and still showing up and leaning on my tribe and all this other stuff, right? But then it ended, excuse me, with slightly feeling grateful, right? With the stillness. And again, it's so interesting, right? Because as human beings, we have so many different emotions and feelings and thoughts where it's like, yes, we can start off the day feeling so shitty and feeling so full of a container, but we can totally end the day feeling so grateful. Just because we wake up a certain way doesn't mean we have to end the day a certain way. And same thing the other way around, right? Like sometimes we can wake up extremely happy and joyful and grateful, and we end up the day feeling shitty. And like sometimes I feel like we have like the power of choice. And again, right? Like I don't know, like I hardcore believe that, even though I sometimes struggle with it, right? But because I believe in it, I think I actively try to work on it. And again, like it's practice because sometimes I just have to allow myself to simply be sad, simply be tired, simply feel like I don't want to get out of bed, and that's okay. And just being in it rather than, again, going to okay, what can I do to get out of it? What can I do next to feel grateful in the next couple minutes or the next couple hours? So we're really fucking complex human beings. But what I was going to share, the quote, let's see, it was like a stillness quote. Okay. So this is one of the things that popped up because it really pops up or has been popping up in meditation spaces with my feelings and my thoughts. And I don't know who this person is, but I found it. It's Elan Yulam. So it says, stillness is not about focusing on nothingness. It's about creating an emotional clearing to allow ourselves to feel, think, dream, and question. And I feel like all of that relates to the last freaking 7 days. I've been feeling deeply, I've been thinking deeply, I've been dreaming deeply, and I've been questioning deeply. So again, even connecting more to my body, to my intuition, to the universe. There's one night actually or one day where I didn't do it in the morning, but I did it later at night. And I got home from work, and even I just had dinner and I went straight to my practice and my work clothes. In that morning or that night, what popped up was let go and let be. Just let go and let be. And again, I just journaled about it. So that's been like my practice so far. The other thing, okay, so this is like the first thing that popped up on my first day of meditation, which again, it goes back to just like creating that space, right? Even if there's a monkey space, because I honestly feel as a meditation teacher, as somebody who practiced for a couple of years before I became a teacher, as somebody who's like so convicted or has such convictions to these meditation practices, that even though there might be a space of monkey mind even though there might be a space of just so much going on in our brain, the more we practice being still and being in those spaces, the more we practice connecting to our breath and connecting to our body, the more we are creating this like inner space within that helps us be peaceful in our everyday lives, that helps us be gentle, that helps us be more compassionate, more empathetic, that helps us be less reactive. And I'm pretty sure, and I'm 1,000% sure that there's studies on this as well. So I'm pretty sure I'm 1,000% positive it's out there. But one of the things that pops up, right, was this. It's by Viktor E. Frankl, and he wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. Really good book, by the way. Between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So I feel that when we meditate, that space becomes bigger and bigger. So yeah, guys, so that's what I've been up to the last couple of days since I've been back. And it's been like a really good transition being back. Before on my other trips, I've always felt really, really sad. And on the last or 2 days of my trip, like I cry because it feels like I don't want to go home. And I've come to my own understanding of it, of what it is and my feelings with it. And this trip and the last trip that I did when I went to Canada, it didn't excuse me, it didn't feel that way. It didn't feel this deep sadness. And it feels good to not to be in that space. And I can't honestly tell you what's changed or what's transitioned. I don't know if there's maybe been acceptance. I don't know if maybe there's been just more of the space of home being my heart. I don't know if it's because I look forward to seeing my tribe of people when I get back, or because I started school and it makes me excited to come back for school. And I don't know if it's because there's optimism when I get back to my routine and my running and my eating and cooking. So I don't know, like I'm pondering out loud, right? So that has felt good. And of course, right, like I'm going through a breakup, so there's still a lot of those feelings present and working through those feelings. And it's so interesting just being in a different headspace as I was in last breakups, where in last breakups I was very quick to numb and suppress and get a hit of a high through other men or through drinking or the dating spaces or doing something really impulsive. And this time around, I've been very, very mindful to choose healthier ways of coping, to choose to be more present with the feelings. And let me tell you, that shit's hard. That shit is very, very, very hard. Like I mentioned, right, like it popped up in one of my meditation spaces and it was like, hey, like I'm just here. And I love, love, love my tribe of people because they definitely can hold the container when I'm feeling those spaces and I vent to them, and it feels like there's a container in between us. And it's like, would you like to witness what I'm going through right now? Like, yes, let me just like vomit. Let me just like share my feelings. And it feels really good to be held in those spaces. And, you know, it's been one of those like reflective moments too, where it's like, oh, like I've been so fortunate enough to have a tribe of people in different seasons in my life where they hold me. Yet again, it's only up until how much I want to be held or to how comfortable I want to be held. And this is seriously like the first time in my life where I've allowed myself to be held this much. And I think I mentioned it in like a podcast episode, maybe not, or maybe it was like a post, but even my best friend since like 5th grade, I think it's like the first time where I've allowed her to hold me. And of course, it was like months ago, right? When the breakup was like really fresh, where I think I cried on her shoulders a couple times. I think like the first couple of weeks. It wasn't like every day, but I think we saw each other like a couple times during the week but I could just cried in her arms, or I showed her a song and I was just like bawling in her shoulder. And again, it feels very vulnerable to be in those spaces, but boy, does it feel so fucking good to be held. And even at work, right? Like the day after the breakup, I went into the office and there was a coworker, right? But she's a really good friend. She's been a really good friend. So of course, like I went straight to her office, and another coworker was there, and I trust him, and I just said like it's over, like this is what happened, and I just cried, and again, it felt so good to be held by both of them. Um, so I think it's like the first time that I think I've come to realize that, like people are present, or people could be present, and they're very much ready to support you and to hold you and to hold your hand and to walk you through it. But then the question pops up of, but are we going to allow ourselves to be seen in that way? Are we going to allow ourselves to be raw in those spaces? Are we going to allow ourselves to feel naked, because it does feel naked? Are we going to allow ourselves to try it out? And yes, there's like that risk of maybe rejection, of maybe the person not being able to hold us, of maybe some kind of reaction. But boy, is it fucking worth trying. Totally worth trying. And again, right? Like in those spaces, you know who to trust, maybe. Like, energetically who may be able to hold you. Maybe energetically, who will be able to witness and see you and hear you. And you can let your walls down a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little tiny bit if you want. But it's definitely been a work in progress, right? And it's been peeling the onions of vulnerability for years. And it just feels like each season, each year that I get older, it's like a different layer of vulnerability. And yeah, there's seriously like no regrets. So yeah, and I was talking to a friend where I don't know if we were talking about, it was like some conversation, I think about like vulnerability or something, and we had mentioned like, oh, like imagine like in a couple years, and I said something along the lines of like, imagine next year. Like there's been so much that I've been learning just like these last couple of months, which I'm sure will be like a podcast episode at some point. But I was like, man, but just imagine next year, you know? And that's something to look forward to. That's super like optimistic. So so yeah, guys, so this is what's been going on with me. Nonetheless, I feel very grateful. I feel a lot better. It's definitely hard. Um, but there's also been a lot of really good moments. So, um, a lot of really good moments. Going on my trip was really, really good. It was a really good reminder of just more of who I am and who I've been and my strengths and things that I love to do and things that I haven't done. It was a really good reminder of everything that I share about the vibrant unknown and these convictions and these whispers in our hearts. It was a really good reminder of just how when we listen to our heart's whispers, we meet vibrant souls and they forever do change our lives. So it was a really good reminder. It was a really good, really, really good fill of cup like adventure. Um, excuse me. I'm gonna keep doing it because I fucking love it. I don't know where I'll be, but next, or what I'm gonna do next. But actually, I'm going to Canada next month for the training. So there's that. But yeah. So with all of that said, I'm like, what else? What else has been going up with me, guys? The devotional practice has definitely been the highlight since I've been back. And just being in these spaces, right, has been also very cool and interesting and fulfilling. So yeah, I think I mentioned, right, like the feminine energy. The feminine energy keeps popping up to you in these spaces. I don't know if I mentioned it. Okay, guys. So this is going to be it for tonight because I can feel myself getting tired. And now I don't even remember if I shared that or not. And I don't want to repeat it if I did. But if I didn't, just to give you a little brief adding to that, is that in these spaces, there's also feminine energy that I'm leaning towards, of being, of allowing myself to be, of softness, of gentleness, of feelings, letting go of like the leadership, taking control, all of that good stuff. So, yeah. So with that said, guys, again, I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for subscribing, for being on YouTube, for being on Spotify, for being on Apple. Share it with your friends. It's so awesome too. Like, side note, right? Because I go on Spotify and I can literally say that my podcast is an international podcast. Super amazing. And of course, like, thank you guys so much. The new friends that I made, like, they subscribed, and Costa Rica, and it's like Brazil, and it's Holland, Europe. I have people from like Vietnam who are listening, so thank you for that. I think I have a person, I don't know who it is, but like Egypt pops up on there, Mexico pops up, and of course different parts of the US, Canada pops up. So I think Ireland pops up, and I think Australia too, and like other countries too. So if you guys are listening from any different parts of the world, I may not know you, but from the deepest parts of my heart, and even not the deepest parts of my heart, there's so much gratitude. So again, it's not just me. If you've been here for a while, then you also know that it's a spiritual podcast, and that spirit is definitely with me as I show up here and as I speak out loud, ponder out loud, whether I have a blueprint, whether I don't have a blueprint, whether I have guests on the show or not. Spirit, that higher power, is definitely present. So, yeah. Okay. So, thank you guys. And if any of this relates to you, if you've been working on letting go of your adrenaline spaces, masculine energy, if you're in some kind of devotional practice, let me know how all of that's going for you. And also, actually, before I let you guys go, there is a meditation event that I'm hosting. I know I canceled the other one for the same reason, right? Like, I was feeling so overwhelmed and there was like so much happening. But mark your calendars, because there is a meditation event happening that I'm guiding in Placencia on December 15th from 11 to noon. So you guys heard it first because I haven't shared it yet. But December 15th from 11 to noon, I will be guiding us through a meditation. And come. It's going to be like a 30-minute meditation. There's going to be fruit. We're going to connect with each other. And let's be in these spaces together, these spaces of stillness, these spaces of calmness. Let's be in these spaces of just being together collectively. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. And yeah, so with that said, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So with that said, I hope you guys have a beautiful weekend, a beautiful week, and much love.